Hi, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela with Blue Bear Flutes. Of course, our website I always try to point out is bluebearflutes.com. So many people ask me in our videos, where can I buy these wonderful flutes of yours? It's bluebearflutes.com. Today, I'm wanting to share with you something that I've had a couple of people ask me about, not only in recent times, but forever. And just a little something I think might give you something fun to do if you're into making Native American flutes. I have been making a flute for a long time that we call a walking stick flute. The walking stick flute has no historic significance that I'm aware of, other than it is a type of flute that resembles a Native American flute historically, but much larger. This walking stick flute is something that has multiple purposes. It's something that you may have seen in a couple of various TV series, like the Kwai Chang Kang from the Kung Fu series, or I'm trying to think of it, there was Kill Bill, I think they had a metal one in there. There's been walking stick flutes anyway throughout our recent history, the last 100 years or so. People have thought they were something kind of interesting, and for that reason, why not a Native American walking stick flute? Anyway, we've been making them for a while. Had spent a lot of time in my youth with people that did martial arts, and I've made, everything from eskrima stick flutes to some Tai Chi practice sword flutes, anything you can think of. I've made a lot of bow staff flutes. We used to offer those on our website specifically for people that were in martial arts, and they were pretty heavy duty, made a little differently than our walking stick flutes today, which are pretty durable. Today, the walking stick flutes we offer are nothing like the ones I'm going to show you. They're not made out of PVC. I do have a video about making a PVC bow staff flute. It's actually the last couple of pages in my flute making book, for that matter. And they're not two pieces. I've had a video I made before that showed a walking stick flute that was made in two pieces that could come apart and go back together. And I've had a lot of people request that, and I've tried to talk them out of it because, the fact that it was two pieces had some convenience, but if you want to have something that is incredibly sturdy and structurally sound, you want something that's one piece. So that's why I make them like that today. For years I made bamboo and river cane walking stick flutes, and I've actually got a video on making a river cane walking stick flute, which there's a lot of convenience in, because you see where I mark my fingerings here. This is the chamber. Hey, kitty. This is the chamber. It's like I feed her at this time every day or something. The chamber of the flute is the full length of this low D fingering pattern, so it works out pretty well, and it will basically make a flute out of this chamber, and then this part here will represent the mouthpiece, and then I'll have another chamber down here that's just basically taking up space, but it makes for a nice bow staff or walking stick flute. This one's very light. Now, on the other hand, this piece of bamboo, which I can't remember where I got it from, it's a friend gave it to me, I just don't remember which one or where it came from. It's probably from North Alabama. This piece weighs about 9 pounds that I'm picking up right now. This one weighs about 9 ounces, maybe 8 ounces, give or take. I haven't weighed it, but I can tell. And this one is about 9 pounds. I kid you not, listen. I mean, it's very heavy. Hey, kitty. Okay, I'm gonna pick the kitty up for y'all for just a second. Come here. There we go. She's gotta come see daddy. But this one has some unique differences about it. Some of those differences make it look really good, and some of them make it harder to work with. Number one, the fact that it's so heavy means it's thick-walled, so I don't know exactly what size flute chamber I'm gonna be working with on the inside yet, not until I cut it open. And another thing, being that the links are so close together, it's not as convenient as a piece of river cane that has a link long enough that I can make an entire flute out of it. This one, a flute won't be made out of a section this big. It's just not convenient. It would be like that big around in diameter and that long would make a high D or somewhere in that ballpark, which is not what you're looking for. But it will make a really nice, sturdy, and very cured out walking stick flute or bow staff flute for myself. And for that reason, I'm going to show you what it takes to make a larger flute out of something with smaller chambers. We do have a video on this I've made sometime in the past showing how to clean the links out between the chambers, but when it comes to walking stick flutes, a friend on YouTube actually had asked this question, and I've been meaning to make another walking stick flute video for some time. So this is our opportunity to, I guess, go ahead and try this one out and see how it turns out. The first thing I'm going to do is cut it to the size I want to make sure it fits my needs, because right now it's about 11 feet and I don't need that much. You stay right here. So I've kind of measured it with a tape measure already, and I believe I'm going to cut it between here and one more. Between here and here is about 48 or 50 inches, I think, is what I found, and that will give me 1, 2, 3, 4 links to mess with, and you know, I won't have too much to suffer down here knocking it out. But one thing you can do if you wanted it, say, 52 inches, is cut it a little above the link instead of right on the link. And same thing on the bottom. You could cut it a little below the link instead of right on the link. The link is actually, sorry about that tail. Come here, baby. The link is actually the strongest part of the bamboo. The in-between part is weaker, but like I say, it has its challenges. I do prefer, when making a bamboo walking stick flute, to leave a little bit above, because it gives you that plain view of that link just for presentation purposes, you know. But I'm going to show you a couple of tricks about doing this kind of thing that, you know, really they're questions you should be asking that you may not even know to ask yet. So let's get started cutting it off first, and then from there we'll move on to creating a hollow tube that we can use for making a flute after I find out how big around the inside diameter is. Okay, so I've got it cut to the size I like. It actually, you know, just below my chin there is perfect for me. I don't know everybody else. I'm not a professional walking stick camper type guy. I just like them for their aesthetic, you know, for the way it looks, being able to play a flute that's this size. And then additionally, as I mentioned in one of my walking stick flute videos, the size of the material of the flute seems to offer a little bit in regards to reverberation and sound and tonal quality of the flute. It really does make a difference to me, but you know, there again, I don't know. Maybe somebody else could tell me what they think. I've been doing this for 38 years, so maybe somebody else has a different idea than I do. One thing I will show you before we go too far is there are places where the limbs used to be, and those scars actually offer something in the line of why it is that I burn the holes in my fingerings and our sound holes. These scars or scar tissues actually have the potential to let moisture in and out of the bamboo. Now we're going to do something to change the whole realm of how that happens mechanically in just a minute. We're going to drill holes in each one of the links that we don't need, and the links that we do need, we're obviously going to drill holes in for other reasons. But before we get to that, one thing I like to do is I like to put a little bit of soupy glue inside of each one of these, and this is a super fine super glue that I buy that soaks in really fast. It's like super thin. It evaporates incredibly fast. But just, I like to go in and seal all of those just like that. And you'll notice it's on the back side of every other link. That's how that works. Hey kitty, don't, oh, she tried to climb the camera lady. That's not right. Hey, you can't do that to mommy. Just to let you all know, before you start talking about fur babies and whatever, I have 3 kids first. This little kitty here is just, she's my snake guardian. I wouldn't ask any of my kids to go take care of a snake for me. Any of you that haven't heard that little bit before from me, she killed a couple of snakes for us as soon as she moved here. She hasn't stopped. She has killed several snakes. She is really something else. So one other thing I'm going to show you that really helps too. So you know that I've put some glue on each of those dots. Normally I'd either fill it in or I'd do something else. This is also an open pore where I just cut it. Now I know you've seen the process how I was cutting it. I cut it at an angle first and then I cut it flush how I liked it. I'm going to do something a little different with this too that I may show in the end, but that's not really an integral part of this video or this flute. I'm just going to put it in my bigger lathe and I'm going to round the top and the bottom of this off like I do the mouthpiece and the foot of all of our flutes. But we'll worry about that later. Right now, I'm sealing these pores. So even on the inside of this flute, there's no major holes and pores inside of it as there are in this cut wound here. So I'm turning it back upside down. I'm going to do the other part. Something else you may not know about my kitty is that she drools really bad. She was so young when she first came to us. I don't know if that drool is from the water moccasin that sent her to the vet or if it's just her natural problem. Some people have said it's feline leukemia, but my vet didn't say anything about that. Now you can see right here this piece of bamboo has been cut for a few years. I think my buddy Roland gave it to me. He's a member of our tribe. I think he's the one that probably cut this and gave it to me. If it wasn't, it was my friend Orrin. I always forget which one this piece of bamboo came from. It's been propped up in my storage for a little while, but there's a crack right there that has soaked up some of that super glue. I may wind up going back over it again with a little more just to be on the safe side. But that's what this kind of thing prevents, and it does help keep that from happening in the future. Like I say, this piece has been cut for a while, but it's going to make a great walking stick flute. Now, to show you one other very important thing that I usually do with natural pieces that I make walking stick flutes out of, and really I do this with bamboo and natural pieces for flutes as well. I don't always do it like this, but with walking sticks you have to do it this way. I'm checking to see what the balance point is. Anyway, if you'll notice, as I hold it like this, it tends to want to roll a lot on its own. I can feel where the balance point is right here, and I'm not talking about like balancing it like this. I'm talking about as it rolls, it has a tendency to curve one way or the other, and this feels like the most natural way to hold it. The reason I test that is because when you're holding a flute like this, you want it to be naturally balanced. You don't want it to be upside down and fighting you while you're holding it. It's only, a couple of ounces worth of torsion, but it really means so much. It's something that you should think of. The other thing that I'm looking at is where my fingers are going to go with regards to the placement, and I can feel that this right here is probably the best place to put the mouthpiece. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that, and that way I know where the center for the purpose of the mouthpiece is. You looking for snakes, honey? So now that I have the mouthpiece placed, I can kind of focus on that and think of where I'm putting it towards my face here. And then of course this is going to be our natural chamber for our air supply, and then this is going to be the natural flute chamber, and then we have some leftover which we're going to get to in just a second. But now I've got an idea. I can focus on where this should go, and I can feel where it's going to be right here, and it's very nice and balanced. So the next thing I'm going to do, only for sake of knowing where the balance is I'm going to put the location of the sound hole, and then from there we can use whatever flute pattern appears to be the one that is the right size for this diameter material, which looks like it can be really a G and F sharp, and I could really stretch it and make an E like I normally do, which might be what I do. But the inside diameter of this side, which is the largest piece of the bamboo, And the inside diameter, the smallest side where it starts tapering, this is up on the piece of bamboo as it's growing. You can tell, whoops, you can tell because the limbs come out this way. Limbs don't grow down. They're always right above the node or the link, so it wouldn't come out from this direction. But like I say, larger in diameter, smaller in diameter, only by about 1/8 of an inch. Inside diameter, though, is really close. I was telling my wife, this is amazing to find a piece of bamboo that has links this close together and the inside diameter be that size. It is just really close to a 7/8 of an inch, which is perfect for making, really, I'm going to make an E out of it. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go grab my E pattern, mark it. I'll tell you what the measurements are, although they're in my book. So, and we do talk about those measurements so many other times. It's really kind of redundant me showing you a lot of these processes, although I realize there's probably a number of you watching this video and have seen only one video of mine. And that's why I'm going to show you some of the steps. But I'll go through them really quickly. If you have any questions and you're wanting to make your own flutes, I have so many videos. Best thing to do is go back to my channel, look through my playlists, find the playlist for flute making, and just knock yourself out. There's just tons of videos there. Or you can look at all of my videos and just say, oh, well, that's kind of funny, I'll watch that. Or that's kind of nice. Hey, this guy knows how to play the flute too. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so we'll drill this out in a moment and drill that out. But before we do, I'm going to grab my E pattern, mark where I need my holes, and figure out where the bottom hole is going to go. And then I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the rest of it. Okay, so it's another day, and I've done some more work to the walking stick here. I went ahead and put the flat area here and the track in it and a little ramp there to make it a little bit easier for the wind to split on it. I'm going to finish this up here in just a little bit and begin to tune it and what have you. But the main part of this video that I wanted you to see was the process of how to clean the inside of a multi-link or a very close link bamboo out. I'm going to start off with a Forstner bit. This one's a 7/8, which is roughly the same size as the inside diameter here. Sometimes you worry about whether this is going to cause a bigger problem than it's going to help. Anyway, next one. This is the one I'm really worried about cracking something. So I'm going to skip right to this long Hawken drill bit. And after the drill bit, we'll go to that auger there to clean out some of the next link. But this drill bit will help me to clean out the two links that I have remaining here, this one and that one. And the reason we don't want to drill this one out is because it's there for a reason. There's no real reason to drill this one and the one above it out. This one here has to have that partition in there so that you can regulate the air from this side to that side and make this whole track useful. But anyway, you can find giant drill bits. This one here I think is about $7 at Harbor Freight. Not saying that's where you should get it or what you should do. Like I said, in the old days I used to always knock these out with an aluminum arrow shaft. There's so many different ways you can do things, and unfortunately these bits have been used a lot. A lot of you would say reaming this out, but I'm actually trying to hit the link in there from a bunch of different angles to help make it a little bit bigger. That's really what I need to do in that last link too. But before I go any further, I'm going to use this one. I believe is going to be safe in here. It'll only go through this next link. We would have known immediately when I put this in there if it was going to crack it. That's how quickly those kind of things happen. Now, to help me out a little bit, let me see. This is a rod that I've got videos on how to make as well. It's just a dowel with some sandpaper jammed in the end of it. I usually fold a old sanding belt in half. The sanding belts are kind of rigid, and they work the best for this in my opinion. and instead of throwing it away, it gives me opportunity to use a coarse belt for something else. But that's what we save our coarse sanding belts for. There are times when we have less used sanding belts to do this with, and I have to cut a new one, but I usually try not to. Anyway, I have a video on how to make this particular rod for cleaning out the inside of flutes and sanding them and what have you. One thing that happens a lot when you put some pressure on a dowel like this right here, even if it was an oak dowel, it'll eventually cause this to break. It may even break in this piece of bamboo here, although I'm going to take a couple precautions to try to keep that from happening. If it does break, it may leave the sandpaper inside of the bamboo, and that's like the worst case scenario because you have no way to get it out. I actually have a rod with a hook on the end of it specifically for doing that, just in case. Ideally, the best thing to do is to super glue this guy in there and make sure you use some super glue that soaks into the wood. That'll cause it less, it'll be much less likely to break right there. And if it does break, typically the sandpaper will come out with it. Once again, haven't done this so many times. If you pull the rod out of the bamboo, don't forget to leave the drill turning at the same time. If you quit using the drill, you let off the trigger and it's no longer turning, and you try to pull it out, it's gonna break. So anyway, we have gotten through this link very happily. This link here, not too bad. Whoops, I'm so sorry. This one very happily. This one here, not too bad. And that one I still need to get through, which is probably going to be this rod. Although this little boy here might ream it out enough if I can get that cleaned up enough inside. Which actually, it looks like we're doing pretty good. I'll show you all that in just a minute. But in the meantime, I like to bend this sandpaper around the dowel. Take 2 steps back. In this particular case, my sandpaper may be too big. I'm going to have to check that in just a second, but it feels like it'll go in there. Ow. Thank you, camera person. Most people would probably clamp this down before they do this, and I guarantee you anybody else would have checked the battery on their drill before they did this. Okay, now it's burning a little bit on this one. What I want to know is, how is it possible for a battery with 3 bars to die so quickly? That's just not right. Luckily, I keep more than 2 batteries. 3 bars. We will see. We will see. And one problem with using a wooden dowel, I'm going to hold it with a little bit of an angle on it here. What's interesting sometimes is what the sandpaper looks like when you get it out. Now, there are a couple of other things you could do if you really wanted to go about this from another angle. I do have some extensions that fit this size auger shaft here. Let me see. But I'm not going to do that. It's always best to use a smaller bit, and it's always best to use this kind of bit. Typically, if you're going to go into a piece of bamboo with this guy right here, it's going to break it. The only reason it didn't for me was because I'd already started the hole in the middle of it. And, this really is seeming like it's done a bunch to it. Let me see what that looks like in there. Nope, it's still a relatively, it's trying. This is a very heavy piece of bamboo. Let's see here. Where's that link at? Yeah, it's getting there. That's all I can say. It's getting there. I'll switch back to my dowel in the hopes that this drill, which says there's 3 bars still, usually it's right. People would say, oh, that's because this is a cheap Harbor Freight drill, but honestly, this drill replaced a Milwaukee, and I love this one. It's amazing. So cool. Oh, it is. Oh, it's doing it. Hold on. Okay, let's switch gears. It did it. Okay, let's try this another way. Back into speed mode. Okay. I actually did a little something there. How about that? I feel like I was trying to peel out in a 1984 Chevy Citation station wagon with a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder in it. Anybody ever tried that before? If you have, please let me know. Any of you know that I collect Fieros, or I have through the years, know that I've owned a couple of different kinds of them, and one of them is the 2.5 that was in that said Chevy Citation station wagon. I'm going to tell you, it did a lot more for the Fiero than it did for the station wagon. I don't know how they stuck one of those in alumina or anything like this. Just crazy. But if you've ever had that experience where you like Fieros, leave me a message. I'm going to go back to tuning this guy, and we're going to have an amazing walking stick flute. I am ultra happy with it. I'll see if I can't shine a light in here and let you look through the end so you can see what it looks like. It looks kind of cool. I mean, you're missing out by not seeing it, so I've got to try to see if we can shove that camera way up in there for you to see. So you can probably see up in there pretty good. It's very cleaned out, I would say. The only thing that a lot of people would be concerned about is breaking through that first link at the bottom and having it open. It's not going to hurt a thing. It's still, you know, I guess 99.9% as structurally sound as it would have been with the link attached. So you get kind of an idea. But like I said, our next step in the process is going to be to go back and make the air supply a little bit larger and more square, and then the sound hole, we're going to square it up, and I'm going to put the ramp underneath of it, and then we'll tune it from there, which should be pretty easy. I do need to make this mouthpiece just a little bit larger. I mean, that's the reason I started with a 1/4-inch bit that I mentioned to you, and I hate leaving those little burrs inside of anything. That's a lot of the reason I had started using burning tools in the first place. But so far, very pleased with it. I think it's going to be pretty good when I'm done. Okay, so I've oiled it, I've tied my block on it, I finished tuning it, very happy with it, turned out really wonderful. There's a couple of things I wanted to tell you about it before I play it for you and finish this video out. Number one, it's very heavy. It's amazing to me how heavy this thing is because I make them out of solid wood all the time and they weigh a little less than half this much. For any of you who are interested in putting something solid in the bottom of your bamboo walking stick, there's a lot of ways you can do this. What I would recommend doing, if you have a caliper, or I mean they're like $1 something for a little cheap plastic or even a metal caliper, about $7 at Home Depot currently. I don't know how much it's going to be in the future. About $1.99 I think at Harbor Freight for a plastic one, which I used for years. For this kind of woodwork, it's all you need. Anyway, you can take the size of this, especially if it's been sanded and it's virtually round. You can get a dowel that's slightly larger than that, or you can get one that's really close to that size, but I would get one slightly larger and just sand it back and forth until it fit in there. I would push it in there about yay far, because really that nub inside of there is still, you can't really feel it too much, but I know it's there. But you can super glue it in and it's there for life. Some wood glue would be okay. Super glue actually bonds better to wood than the wood glue would. It sounds like a woodchuck wood. Anyway, so that's one thing. The other thing, oftentimes I have people ask me to make them a walking stick flute and put the mouthpiece up here. And I try to explain to them for a lot of reasons why that's a bad idea. Not even the fact that it looks a lot better playing it this way and it's perfectly balanced, which is just miraculous in my opinion. But also, if you're over here playing this flute like this, somebody could trip over because it's 6 feet out in front of me, and then that could jam the flute in your teeth, and that's just really a bad idea. I've had people promise me, oh, I'm never going to do that, that's not going to happen. Well, the other thing is, it looks like you're playing a flute that's about this big around, that's 6 feet long, and that's just really absolutely hysterical looking. No offense to anybody that makes flutes like that, but it's just not the way that I see it happening. It's just not right. And there's no difference in putting your mouth on this hole here and blowing than it would be if the hole was rotated slightly and at the end of this instead of on the side of it. There's no difference. So anyway, very happy with it. Turned out really perfect. Feels comfortable to hold. It's balanced. Like I say, it looks like it should, in my opinion. I did lightly sand it a little bit. I was trying to get those pencil marks off, I think I mentioned earlier in the other video, the other portion of this video. But when whoever it was that put them on there, they were in there pretty deep, so I had to sand it off. Anytime you sand bamboo, you open more pores up. So this can create a problem. Eventually it's going to create some little fine cracks here. It's up to me to go back and oil it over and over and over and over again and wax it until eventually those cracks are filled in with something that's not going to let it go any further. A lot of people also ask, can I get a rubber foot for that? I don't offer them on my walking stick flutes anymore. Mine are slightly smaller. I mean, they're so close to this size, but just like maybe an 1/8 of an inch smaller in diameter than this, and they do make a giant rubber foot for those. I've ran into them sometimes at Walgreens, CVS, sometimes at Walmart. Sometimes they have them and sometimes they don't. Used to be I could always get them at Home Depot and Lowe's, but it's kind of hit and miss these days. But you just have to look for a giant rubber foot. Now the other place, of course, you can always go online and order them, and I've done that several times. But the rubber foot will protect it, of course, but more so than you really need. To be honest with you, I've got one friend who has had one of these walking stick flutes in his possession for about the last 22 years now, and that walking stick has been all over the world. Where he lives is the most rugged, rough terrain on the planet. It's man-made, but it is very rough, and it's not cement or asphalt. It's just a lot of stone, a lot of volcanic rock everywhere. And something he did, I guess about 5 or so years into it, is he put a lot of electrical tape on the bottom of it. Didn't cover the bottom of it, just electrical tape everywhere else so that it didn't split. And that is still one of his favorite walking stick flutes that he has. He's got 2 or 3 of them from me. Still his favorite one he has till today. So Anyway, once again, very pleased with this myself. If you need more on how to make this part, I've got so many videos on that and showing the process. You don't need fancy tools to make any of this. I use them because I have them at my disposal and I have a lot less time to make flutes for videos than I would really like, but that's because we make so many flutes and ship them all over the world. So I'm going to play it for you as we go out here. If any of you can think of any questions or comments that you have, please always think about putting them in the comments below this video. I appreciate those. This video here was actually, as I mentioned early on, it was sparked by somebody asking, how do you clean this part of it out? And, you know, there's ways to do everything, and as I mentioned, you can plug this if you want to. Don't have to at all. Plugging it does make it more structurally sound, but you know, to what degree are you going to need that? If you're putting 200 or 300 pounds straight down on it at any point in time, yes, probably not a bad idea. Honestly, I would put an extended foot on it just a little bit, or even that rubber one, but you'll tear those up in no time if that's what you're doing regularly. So anyway, I hope this video finds you all well. I look forward to seeing what you think about it. I hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and play this flute on the way out here. Thanks again for watching. Charlie Mato-Toyela, Blue Bear Flutes, and sayonara.